Let's talk about a topic that does not get discussed enough and will either make or break your financial future. Hey, what's going on everyone? Hayden here, come back at you with a brand new video. And in this one, we're gonna be talking about a pretty controversial topic, something that actually, at least myself, I was never taught in school and it screwed me up big time, okay? These are mistakes that will be with me for years and years and I can't get rid of it. So I wanna go through here before I get into anything specific, how I built my credit, talk about business credit as well, and just give my personal opinion on this subject. I want to make it very clear, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not a credit advisor. I have both of those. I have a really good team behind me who's been helping me with credit. So I want to share a little bit of that insight, explain things that have worked for me and some definitely some big don'ts, okay? Because when I was first getting into this whole space, being able to do credit and all this and that, I was 18. Right? And so there's ways to build credit while you're underage, being added onto someone else's card, or your parents can kind of, again, put you under their card. There's things like that. I didn't have that, so I was coming in from scratch and I didn't learn anything about it in school. So I made a couple of very big rookie mistakes that, again, are gonna be haunting me for years and they affect me to this day. So there's business credit and there's personal credit. I know maybe some of you guys watching this don't have a business. Well, then that doesn't apply to you, at least for right now, okay? And I want to apologize for the echo in this room. I think it's a little bit. We still got a bunch of foam to be putting up, but we're kind of getting things set up in the background as well. So if you're liking the YouTube studio so far, make sure to drop a like down below. I'm probably going to lower these just a little bit, but I want to talk about this because it was really only within a couple month time frame that I went from about a 690 credit score to 753 with history. Okay, there's the difference. So I'm going to talk, I'll probably make other videos talking about how like buying an exotic car affects your credit. I'll touch on those things and even regular vehicles as well, because as of right now, I've purchased multiple vehicles, some of which you guys don't even know about yet. So that'll be coming soon too. But all of that plays a role. Also, renting, right? If I'm putting my name onto something, they do a credit report. Now, if you're renting a home, renting a condo, renting an apartment, that doesn't actually help build your credit, unfortunately. So that's something, again, I was never taught. But there's a lot of different things I want to discuss in here. So I'm not the best at credit. This is just my personal opinion and my experience with it. So the very first thing I did that was a good thing, right as I turned 18, right after I got back from traveling overseas for a couple months, so I was like 18 in a couple months, I immediately went to my bank and I got a secured credit card. This is something that anyone can do. You're never gonna get disapproved for it because it is a secured card. What does this mean? This means you can go set the limit. It's either gonna be $500, $1,000. I got an $1,000 secured card. I still have it to this day, actually. It's this one right here. It's just from US Bank. It's a regular little gray basic card. It has a $1,000 limit. So you can go higher than that or whatever, but it's never gonna get disapproved because you are giving your bank that equivalent of the monthly limit before you open the card. So I don't think it's possible to be disapproved for that, but regardless, I got this, and one of the biggest things that I recommend to every single person when it comes to credit, please make sure that you set your card to auto pay. I did not have this issue, but I watched two of my friends, that's four, two of them literally screw up their credit. Absolutely wrecked it when they could have had such a huge upside potential, right? They actually had some issues where it didn't get paid off, they didn't hear about it for a couple of days. Boom, that negatively affects your credit, and any little mistake you make is gonna haunt you for years. So one of the first and biggest mistakes that I made myself, not knowing anything about credit, this is something you should please avoid. Do not go apply for cards until you know this. I saw all my friends, some of which who had personal cards, some had business cards, regular small ones, massive credit lines all across the board. And all I did was hear all this cool stuff about credit, and so I went and applied for a bunch of different cards randomly. No structure, no certain intervals in between them, and I got declined for most of them, right? Because I applied incorrectly, I didn't even know what an inquiry was, let alone a hard inquiry, and I'll explain this in a moment. But it completely screwed me, and stuff like this stays on your credit history, your credit report for a while. So before you do anything, please, I would probably go watch someone more educated than me personally, or get an advisor when it comes to credit, or at least just do your research. Because all I did was go apply. I remember there was the Wells Fargo Propel. I actually got approved for an Amex Platinum. I got two different Amexes. I applied for the business and a personal, and I got approved for the personal. And it didn't make sense, like certain things, but what I realized started happening is when you're applying for cards and then you apply for another card, especially if you got declined, whether you got declined or accepted, that most recent one is going to look at that. They're going to say, why is he applying for multiple cards? Because there's something called a hard inquiry. And this is something I didn't even know existed, right? So it's on your report. And I've actually recently also been declined for more cards. I have a bunch of different credit cards, but I've been declined for some because there's been a certain amount that is above what they want to see when it comes to your inquiry report, is what I believe they call it. So this means, on your history, they're basically showing, because it sticks with you every single time you've applied. So if I'm getting denied for this and then, I apply for an Amex card, and Amex is usually more lenient with it, but I call them because it doesn't go through and I get disapproved, and I'm like, what happened? Because you should call. So this is something we'll get into after, but they tell me, oh, it's because first of all, your credit history is very small, and then you have too many inquiries during that time. You've applied for too many cards. So it can actually negatively affect you very, very greatly. So the first thing I recommend you do, if you've already applied for some cards, let's say you did it 5 minutes before this video and you got disapproved, right? They told you right then and there they're not able to approve you, call their recon line. This means basically just call the company and get someone on the phone and say, hey, what I like to approach it as, and this is what was advised to me, so I'm just going to pass it on because it's worked extremely well for me. People told me, or my person told me to say, hey, is there anything else you guys need from me? Right? Any more information? And you also want to call them and say it too if it's pending. So whether you're declined or pending, you're going to call them, say, hey, is there any other information you need? And then if they try to bring up a reason of why you might have gotten disapproved, well, you're just going to say, hey, is there any way, first of all, you want to learn why you got disapproved, because you should not be applying for other cards if you got disapproved, especially if it's an issue with you having applied to too many cards. You'll want to stop and wait. So what you'll do, you'll basically go ahead and ask them if you got disapproved, and this is more so for business owners. So if you're applying for a business card under your personal name and they decline you, say, hey, is there any chance we can either A, put it in a manual review, which they can do, without having another inquiry on your report? Sometimes they'll say yes. Usually what they've told me is maybe. We can't guarantee if there's going to be another inquiry or not. In that situation, it's a no-go. I do not do a manual review. Now, the other thing you can ask them to do is say, hey, well, that was under my personal. What if we put the card under my business, right? What if we go through and apply? Can we do that? And can we do it without another inquiry? So that's something, again, where usually it's going to be a similar outcome. But if you have a business, it's an advantage. You can choose which one you want to put it under, because you do want to be building personal credit and business credit. Usually, depending on what your structure is, you can get a credit under your personal self and still use it as a business card and write it off, as long as you're associating that card to your business. So those are a couple of key things. I know I'm throwing a lot at you guys, but this is something that has really, really helped me recently, because keep this in mind. A lot of people, and this is something one of my good buddies, Graham Stephan, I know he was posted funny stuff on his story a few months back about people commenting on one of his credit videos saying, oh, so this is how you're going into debt, classic Americans being stupid. And I'm sitting there like, people really don't know. Like if you're I have a debit card. If you're gonna put something on a debit card, it's equivalent to cash, right? There's no benefit to you, it's just digital. So the only thing that's happening there is the money's directly coming out of your account. Now, depending on what you do credit-wise, you're essentially using someone else's money. Typically, you would have the money, at least for day-to-day use, and you're paying it back. Now, there's multiple different types of cards. Like you could get an Amex Platinum. That's actually a charge card, which means it's like a debit card with rewards. That's basically what it is. It's not actually going to build your credit. So you have to pay it off at the end of every single month. This is like what my Amex Personal was. You have to pay it off. And so essentially what you're getting is, if you spend $10,000 that month or $1,000 or whatever it is, well, you're going to get reward points based on that. So this goes for regular cards too. You sign up, you might see all these big incentives, 80,000 bonus points right when you sign up, right? 60,000, 40,000, get miles, get 3-to-1 cash back, 4-to-1 cash back. There's cards where I get 4 points back for every dollar I spend on my ads. That's huge. If you're spending $50,000 a month, $100,000 a month, or I know people who spend millions a month in ads, you will never again in your life pay for airfare. You'll fly business class for free. You will stack up so many points, hotels, Airbnb, Ubers, depending on the card. And it's insane what you can use to leverage that for, right? And unless you're done with it, because there's a lot of people who get a card and then there are these college kids that go out and buy a big TV that they don't have any money for, but they put it on credit, then they can't pay it back, they end up paying double, it ruins their credit history. It's a whole mess. Trust me, I've seen people get absolutely destroyed. Their financial future is destroyed. And I've injured mine. I've literally injured mine because I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning. And again, shout out to school for teaching me zero zero about credit. I came out of school not prepared at all on that subject, which baffles me, right? I went and paid a lot of money to learn credit and have someone do it for me. But that is stuff where it's gonna be priceless, right? It's gonna take, like, it helps so much. So there's a couple other topics I wanna talk about real quick. The buying car aspect, okay? Let's talk about the buying the car, and then we'll talk about how I got history behind it, and a few of the specific things that I did, okay? So with the buying car, I'll make a video on like more of the exotic car type of things because it's a different structure. Now, personally, I buy most of my cars in cash, and that's how I'm going to be doing it from here on out. So every single car I buy, I bought in cash. I've purchased 3 vehicles in cash. 1 I have not purchased in cash. So the reason that I personally do it like this, if I'm gonna be buying a car, to me a car is fun. A car is a hobby. It's not something where I'm doing it because I don't have the money but I need a vehicle, right? I already have a car. So I'm not worried about like getting around and just needing a daily driver. So for me, I just want to make sure I have the money to just purchase the car. And now some people would say, oh, even if you have the money, you should still finance it because you can get a better rate of return somewhere else. Well, what if that's not your game plan, right? People are quick to judge and quick to assume, what if my money is sitting liquid and I have no plans to use it for a couple of years because I have something specific in mind? Well, at that point, you could potentially consider buying the vehicle in cash. You won't pay the interest. Depending on how you structure it, it can be a business write-off. And then what you're doing is you're depreciating the vehicle. You're writing off the miles on it. You're writing off your gas, your repairs, everything. So that's something where, for me, I just like to just pay it in cash because that again, it's just a personal choice. When I see my bank account go down like that, you know, like when I bought my Lamborghini or when I have other cars you'll be seeing soon, you know, that's something where I just see that and it makes me hustle. I like it. I don't know, like, whatever. That's just my personal choice. So keep in mind that if you want to go get approved for a vehicle, I have friends who've wrecked their credit. They're down in like the 400s or 500s. It's destroyed, like the repo man is coming after their car. Well, they'll never be able to get approved for a loan on a vehicle or a house or anything for like 7 years or something. So if you're trying to buy a car that's $60,000 and you want to do the classic put 20% down, you cannot do that without credit. Okay, there's only a few very, very slight ways, maybe showing massive amounts of cash in your bank account, like 10, 30, 50x the vehicle value, which at that point you might as well just purchase it in cash. Or if you have a cosigner, which most people don't have, okay? So that's something where credit is huge. If you want to buy a home, huge. In most situations, if you want to rent an apartment, credit is important, okay? Usually a regular apartment is not gonna look at that much. I've rented 2 homes myself under my name where they do a credit check. And trust me, credit plays a role in that. And for me, when I was doing that at 18, where I didn't have much credit history, it was definitely like an income variable. So showing the income was huge for me. That's what allowed me to get approved for multiple things. Like my house here in Arizona. Now I've had credit going for a little while. It wasn't an issue, okay? My place here, my condo, it wasn't an issue, you know? So having history behind that is huge. You'll slowly build it as you go. So what did I do to build my credit specifically? So I went and got, this is the first thing I did, I got the secured card and I set it to auto pay. Now I started putting 40% of this amount, which was recommended to me by someone who has very good credit, they're very smart, have a lot of money. People can disagree or agree, I don't really care, but it's worked. So I put 40% every single month on this card, which is about $400. It automatically pays off. Very simple. I just put like one of my phone bills and a software on there. It was like almost exactly $400. Perfect. I don't think about it. So that's something for me where I was able to build it. You can do it on a smaller scale. You can put whatever you want on the card, but that's helped me ease into it. Now, what really put history behind it for me, I actually got added onto a credit card that is older than I am. You might be saying this is like, I just want to be transparent with what I'm doing. I've paid a lot of money to understand this credit stuff and to get people helping me. So part of those things actually involved me being added onto a card that has a massive amount of volume pushed on it, huge credit limits, and someone's using it. And I'm added on there, so it's building history as if it were mine. So that's something where you can't just go do that. And like, I just want to explain what I did because it helped so much. So that definitely helped boosted the history piece. What boosted my score itself was this specific card and a couple of other business cards. The Amex itself does not help. The charge card, at least the platinum I had, did not help build credit. I believe that's just a charge card, plain and simple. But there's ones that I've put that are business cards that I put under my personal name when I applied that have worked, okay? The Chase Sapphire, the Chase Ink Blue Biz, the Amex Gold. These are great cards where you're gonna be getting massive reward points. So when I have some under the business and some under my personal self, I'm spending a lot of money on it, writing all of it off because it's a business expense, what I'm putting on the card. I'm also stacking up massive points. So this is something, again, where you can contribute that to airfare down the road. That's gonna be probably the biggest thing for me, because I would love to fly business class without necessarily having to pay for it. That would be a lovely kickback. So, that's kind of my choice of how I'm choosing to use it. But if you are not yet involved inside of credit at all and you're above the age of 18, I recommend you take care of this. I'm gonna put this out personally. I've never mentioned it. I didn't want to talk about it too much this year, like goals and specific, because some stuff is personal. I had 5 specific things that I picked for this year, okay? 5 things is all I wanted to do. 5 very specific goals in mind. The first one, 2 of which I've knocked out, which is great, okay? The first one, credit. That was on my goal. I took care of that in the middle of January 2019. Boom, started the year off with a bang, took care of it, paid some people to really, really, really help me out with that. Since January I had a 690-ish score, okay, on Credit Karma. Now, I'll put up a screenshot. Now I have a 753. Hasn't even been 3 months. So that's something we're adding these cards on, starting to run my business expenses through that, and being added onto an extra card has all played an accumulative role. So again, my advice to you here, because a lot of the content I put on the channel, I've said this a few times, I'll say it again, a lot of the content I put here on the channel is the content that I was looking for that was not available. Now, this video specifically, I was not really searching to learn about credit when I was 14, 15, 16, getting into business. However, this is something where if you're of that age, if you're 18, if you're 20, 30, 40, and don't have anything with your credit going, that is why I put this out. Because I didn't even learn this in school. How flawed is that, where the education system doesn't teach you one of the most important things that is literally a criteria in almost everything you want to do. Almost everything. So it's a huge, huge variable that just most people don't take seriously or don't have any knowledge on. So if you're trying to learn anything about credit, if you're trying to take it a little more seriously and just start slowly building it, go get a secured card. Try applying to just one basic card, okay? You can do some research, try and see what reward points, like maybe you run a business, maybe you don't. That's gonna affect what you wanna do. An American Express Platinum, it's a great card. Great card, you could probably get approved for that. It depends on your situation. But I would definitely recommend a secured card, especially for people who are much younger, who maybe don't have massive amounts of income or anything of that sort where you might be worried about getting disapproved for a card, okay? Because that's definitely gonna be something that's gonna help you out, even if it starts building very, very slow. It's just starting to show that track record, and trust me, this is something I didn't really realize, and I'm glad I kind of did it quick with this secured card, is because when I went to apply for some very big real credit cards, they looked at that and it was kind of trickling in. My credit was slowly building up. At least I had something. There was something on paper, and that will always help you get approved, at least help contribute to something. At least if it's a smaller piece, it will help towards something bigger in the future. And to me, this is something I didn't really understand to the end of last year. Once I kind of realized I was getting screwed with my credit, that's why I decided to take care of it this year. I realized this is priceless. Literally, that's why I was willing to pay so much money to get this taken care of. And if people want to learn about where I did it, or if you have, it's not an affiliate thing, or it's just a very, very, very high skilled person, you can always message me on Instagram and ask about it. It's not really something I'll put out public because it's more so for people who do business stuff. But this is something for me where I decided to take care of it, because I'm like, if I want to start really getting into real estate in a couple years, if I want to be able to finance a vehicle down the road, like a crazy exotic car, well, I'd like to have the option to. If I'd like to buy a home, I would want to have the option to have a good down payment, get a good APR, like a good interest rate or whatever on what I'm doing. I would like to have that option. So for me, that's something where I felt like it was basically priceless and completely invaluable. So I decided to take it seriously. It's one of the things where most millennials, actually, 54% of millennials or so, I think I read that statistic, don't even have a credit card. Huge. Just go get a card. Stop swiping a debit card. That's my piece of advice, okay? Study it, obviously, depending on what card you're trying to apply for. Study it, learn those specifics, but trust me, credit is going to be huge. It's going to help you out down the road. It's already been helping me so much with basically everything I'm doing, especially having the right cards for my business. That's where I'm seeing the most value. all right? So I hope this video helped. If it gave you some insight, if it hopefully taught you something that school did not, make sure to drop a like down below. I'd greatly appreciate that. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer it. Again, I'm not some crazy advisor on this. This is not my cup of tea. In fact, that's exactly why I pay other people to do things for me, right? But they've passed a lot of information on to me. I wanted to put this out there because I know it's something I get bombarded with whenever I post a video talking about a car, whenever I post something talking about like ad spend on Instagram. Every single person, well, not everyone, a bunch of people jump in my DMs asking about it, so I figured it'd be a perfect topic because it's something that's so long-term, so legit, and so valuable, all right? So again, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like down below, and if you're not already subscribed to our channel, we got the plaque up there. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. I would greatly appreciate it, and with that being said, I'll be seeing you in the next video. Remember, we're posting on the channel Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so make sure to hit the post notification down below so that you do not miss a single one of those, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Peace.